වාණිජ, විද්‍යා, කලා, ගණිත, තාක්ෂණ වේදය, විෂය ධාරාවන් වල සියලුම විෂයන් සඳහා දැන් නැනපවුර YouTube channel ඔස්සේ නැරඹිය හැක.
ආයිබෝවන් හැමෝටම. අද තියෙන්නේ Econ දේශනයක්. ඉස්සෙල්ලාම මතක් කරන්න ඕනේ අපේ නැනපවුර නිර්මාතෘ ප්‍රභාත්නන්ද තිලකරත්න සර්. එතුමාගේ සංකල්පයක් යටතේ තමයි මේ හැම සෙමිනාර් එකක්ම තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපේ අද මේ දේශනයට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න නොහැකි වෙන ඔයාලගේ යාළුවන්ට කියන්න අපේ නැනපවුර YouTube channel එකකින් නැවත බලන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒ වගේම ඔයාලට නැවත ගිහිල්ලා බලන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයාලට ඉදිරි දේශන ගැන දැනගන්න ඕන නම් අපේ Telegram group එකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Telegram group එකේ link එකත් අපේ නැනපවුර YouTube channel එකේ තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම විශේෂ දෙයක් කියන්න තියෙනවා. මේ සෙමිනාර් එක ඉවරනාට පස්සේ අපේ YouTube channel එකට ගිහිල්ලා මේ වීඩියෝ එක එළුවොත් ඒකේ comment section එකේ දාලා තියෙනවා ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නෙට හරියට උත්තර දෙන්න. ඒකට උත්තර දෙන්න නම් මේක හොඳට අහන් ඉන්න ඕනේ. එහෙනම් අද දේශනය ආරම්භ කරමු. මේ ආරාධනය මේ දේශනය ආරම්භ කිරීමට මෙම ආරාධනය අපේ නෙත්සිරි සර්ට. අයිබෝන් සර්.
Right.
Hello sir.
Good morning to all. Right. Today I'm going to start the unit 4 in your syllabus. That's one of the units in grade 12. Right. That is cost of production. So before starting the cost of production, first of all, I have categorized the lesson plan. First of all, I'm going to explain you regarding production, then production function, then the special time periods in the production called short run and long run, then the cost of production part, and finally, profit estimation of perfectly competitive firms. Because to come for this conclusion of the profit estimation of the firms, you should have a proper understanding on production and cost. So that is why I have plans to do you, first of all, the term of production. Right. So if we take production, simply we call production as converting input into output. You may have heard that, converting input into output. In Sinhala we call it යෙදවුම් නිමවුම් බවට පත් කිරීමේ ක්‍රියාවලිය නිෂ්පාදනය නමින් හැඳින්වෙනවා. Now here you have to get an understanding on what are the inputs of production. For example, if I take this marker pen with me now and I'm forwarding your question, right? What are the inputs used to produce this marker pen? So most of the students would come up with the answer that plastic, ink, right? Maybe other ingredients used to produce the pen. What you have to remember is in the theory of production, right? Especially inputs are not considered as raw materials or ingredients. Input means factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. You may have already studied it in your schools. When the teachers are teaching, you have to study 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. These are the inputs of production. By using these inputs, we produce a particular product, a good or a service. Now, you have heard that there are 4 factors of production, right? 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Right. From these factors of production, now again I'm coming to the example of this marker pen. Can you see the land here? You can't see. Right? Can you see labor here? But you know that this has been produced by workers. There should be workers to produce this one. At the same time, capital. We use capital to produce machines, equipment. We are using them, right? And entrepreneurship is already included in labor. Right? Therefore, we have to simplify the practical factors of production which are needed to discuss about the production. Therefore, we simplify these factors of production to labor and capital. Labor and capital. And you may have heard that there are two production techniques in the production process to produce a particular product: labor intensive technique and capital intensive technique. Where also we emphasize on labor and capital. Okay, so mainly you have to pay attention to the production, that the production of a particular product is done by using labor and capital. We want this labor and capital as a factors of production to construct the production function. As I said, that converting input into output is the production process. So when we use the mathematical presentation of the relationship between this input and the output, it is shown by the production function. We write the production function as Q is a function of L and K. This is a very frequent one. You may have heard, you may have seen, you may have read this, right? Q is a function of L and K. It means quantity of output depends on a function of labor and capital. From these factors of production, labor and capital, right? You know that the most influential factor is labor, right? Most influential factor is labor. In Sinhala we call it. අපි සාමාන්‍ය නිෂ්පාදනයක් කරගෙන යනකොට ඕනෑම අවස්ථාවක පුතේ අපිට ශ්‍රමිකයින් ඒ ලේබර් එක ප්‍රොවයිඩ් කරන අය ශ්‍රමිකයින් අපිට පාලනය කරන්න ලේසියි. If there is a what you call huge production, we can simply increase the number of workers. If the production is declining, we can simply reduce the number of workers. But that effect easily cannot be done on capital. අපි කියන ප්‍රාග්ධනයට ඒක කරන්න බෑ. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රාග්ධනය ඔයගොල්ලෝ සාමාන්‍ය අහලා තියෙන විදිහට එකපාරටම වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් එකක් නෙමෙයි. Capital means man-made aids used to produce goods and services. That is a produced factor of production. That is a produced factor of production that is durable, right? And a firm needs a huge cost to develop capital. Therefore, change in the capital is having some restrictions. Labor can be changed very easily. Okay, so you have to remember that, because when we are going to study the short run and long run, we need to understand the nature of the behavior of this labor and capital. That is why I have explained you, labor is the influential factor, capital is not influential like that. So, it needs a huge cost to implement, right? So based on this, now I have already written the production function. Quantity of output is a function of labor and capital. It means when labor and capital are being changed, quantity of output can be changed. Because now this is the dependent variable, output is a dependent variable, input is the independent variable. When these are changed, output also will be changed. Okay, so that is why we call this production function. Then you have to get an understanding on especially two time periods of the production called as short run and long run. Short run and long run. Right. Because when you are going to the other parts of this unit, you should have to get a proper understanding on some main concepts on production. One thing you have studied earlier, that the factors of production, right? Now you have to get an understanding on what is meant by short run and what is meant by long run. Now, some of the students, when we ask a question, they say that short run is a time period less than 1 year long run is a time period more than 1. That is wrong in the production. This short run and long run depends on how we can influence the labor and capital. Especially in the short run, right? In the short run, we define it as short run is a time period within which an organization or a business firm cannot change all the factors of production. Cannot change all the factors of production. It means in the short run, only labor is the variable factor. Only labor is a variable factor. Capital is held constant. Again, you remember it. Short run is a time period within which an organization cannot change all the factors of production. Therefore, in the short run, labor is the variable factor. Capital is fixed or constant factor. You can easily influence the labor in the short run. Okay. Then, if you prepare the production function for the short run, we can simply write the same function by putting this kind of hyphen, right, above K. It means capital is constant. So if you see this kind of a function in the production, right, this is called as a short run production function. In the long run is the time period within which an organization or business firm can change all the factors of production. Both labor and capital are changing in the long run. There are no fixed factors in the long run. Now, when we go to the production function, it can easily be written as by deleting, right, the dash above K like this. So this is the long run production function. It means all factors, labor and capital, are changing in the long run, right? Now, especially you want to remember that there is no number of days, number of weeks, number of months, or number of years to distinguish between short run and long run. පුතේ කෙටි කාලය සහ දිගු කාලය නිෂ්පාදනය අපිට බෙදා වෙන් කරගන්න දින ගණනක්, සති ගණනක්, මාස ගණනක් හෝ අවුරුද්දක් අපිට කියන්න අමාරුයි. මොකද හේතුව, the reason is because when we do a particular change to capital in the production process, at once it starts the long run. I'm coming with an example. Now assume that I have started a bakery. Mama bakery පටන් අරගෙන තියෙනවා. In this bakery, I have a particular building and a space provided to me. I rented it, right? And I have some machines fixed on that, mixing flour and ovens, right? So various kinds of instruments and capital we have to use to operate my bakery. At the same time, I'm recruiting some workers as labor, right, to run my business, to run my bakery. Now there are both labor and capital available in my bakery. Now assume that I have started this bakery with 10 workers. මම සේවකයෝ 10 දෙනෙක් එක්කලා තමයි දැන් මේ බේකරිය පටන් ගන්නේ. පටන් ගන්නකොට පුතා I have a limited amount of area building that is capital. And just say that I have one oven and one mixture. Mixture means we are using blenders, right, to mix the flour and the ingredients, right? And some what you call few tables, right? Those kind of items I'm using as capital. Just say that I have started this bakery, right, last week. Right, last week I have started on Friday. Right now, by this Friday, we have completed a week. Right. Now, when I have started the bakery, usually I'm inviting my friends to come and grace the occasion, right? And assume that there is one of my friends who was also running a bakery. Now he has stopped doing it. He has stopped doing it, maybe due to prevailing economic crisis, right? So he promises me to give me his own equipment in the bakery. So I come to know that message after 2 days of opening my bakery, right? What I do is I simply go there and I collect his machines and equipment and I'm putting in my bakery. And the time I have got my long run. So when you are doing a particular change to your capital in the production, in the business firm, you come to the long run. At the same time, do not forget that there are some kinds of firms and business firms, they have started many years before. They have started many years before. Still, they have not done any change to capital. Same space of the building, same machines, right? Same vehicles they have used, right? Even though that has been started many years before, even now they are operating the same amount of capital. Still, they are in the short run. You know that the workers are changing, right? So that is how you have to identify short run and long run in the production process. Therefore, remember, do not think that it is based on number of days, number of weeks, number of months, or number of days. You have to get a proper understanding on these terms and the concepts when you are learning this theory of production. Right? It's very easy to understand. That is why I'm using only the whiteboard and the marker. I'm not using slides and anything, because then you can easily understand the easiness of this unit. Okay, so I have given you the understanding on short run and long. Therefore, long run starts when we make any influence to capital. Okay, right. Now, when you are studying this unit, you may have heard that in the short run, the effective law is law of diminishing returns. I know that usually, law of diminishing returns, right? You learn it by heart and then you omit it. It was a idea. But that idea is not going to ahead. Sometimes you may have learned this unit by using schedules, right? With numerical examples. And they would say that total production changes like this, average production changes like this, marginal production changes like this, through these kind of what you call a numerical example. Do not go for that. You can simply understand the production from your environment. Now I am going to teach you that one. First of all, I am going to teach you here law of diminishing returns in the short run. What is that? Law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. In Sinhala we call it Heenavana Paladanya. Law of diminishing returns. This is also called as law of variable proportions. It's an old usage, but you have to study that as law of diminishing returns. So when I ask you this question, what is meant by a law of diminishing returns, right? You would give me the answer by learning it by heart. Law of diminishing returns. Remember, this is effective the short run of the production process. Short run in the production process. Now, before going to the theoretical part of this law of diminishing returns, I am coming up with a particular example. The body example again, then this is in the short run. Then now there is a paddy field. There is a paddy field. Well up here. Just say that the size is 5 perches. 5 perches paddy field. Paddy field is capital. Paddy field is capital. Man-made paddy field. Capital. In the short run, you have to remember that the influential factor is labor, right? And capital is constant. Make a Venus winning. Now we are putting the workers one by one to work in the paddy field with mammoths. So when the first worker comes, second worker comes, third worker comes, they have a sufficient space to work here. What will happen? their total production. Here also, you are learning a new concept called total production. You have to remember total production, that is denoted by TP, total production, or sometimes it's called as total physical production. Then average production, then marginal production. We are concentrating on these three types of production: total production, average production, and marginal production. I'm explaining it later, right? Okay. Now, total production means the total amount of output which can be produced with given amount of input at a given period of time. What is the given amount of input here? Since it's the what you call a short run, labor. දෙනු ලැබූ ශ්‍රමිකයින්ගෙන් තමයි මේ වැඩි දැන් කරගෙන යන්නේ. And then what happens to the total production? Since the space is what you call okay to work, and assume that in this 5 purchase paddy field, maximum 20 workers can work here. Maximum 20 workers. So when you are increasing the number of workers, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, gradually, since the space is sufficient, they can work very hard, very speed, effectively they can work. It means the total production, right, then of the labor factors, when the labor gradually increases, total production increases at an increasing rate. When it reaches the 20, I said you that the limited workers can be employed here, 20 maximum. When it comes to maximum, gradually this total production increases at an increasing rate, then it increases at a decreasing rate, then it reaches the maximum. When we are putting the workers 21, 22 like that, since the space is limited, their production is declining. That is why total production is behaving, right? Total production is behaving like this, right? And you may have seen how the total production curve is drawn. So this side we keep total production, here labor. Labor is the input here, right? And this side total production. You have seen the curve you are drawing. It's like this, behavior is like this. It shows that from the beginning, total production first increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a decreasing rate, then reaches the maximum, then it tends to decline. This is the shape, this is the behavior of the total production. To prove this behavior, what we are doing is we are giving you schedules. We're giving you schedules to prove this shape. That is why I said you do not go for the schedules first. You understand the behavior. Since the amount of capital is limited, when the number of workers are gradually increased, right? Total production first increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a decreasing rate, then reaches the maximum, then tends to decline. It's a maximum number of workers are working. That is why total production is behaving like this. The next concept I told you, average production, AP. You know that how to estimate average production? Total production is divided by number of labor units. Then it is equal to the average production. It means the contribution given by one worker to the total production. That is average production. Here also, you have to learn the behavior of the average production. Okay, now, before going to that, I am explaining you what is meant by marginal production. Marginal. Marginal means extra or additional. When an additional worker adds to the business firm or the firm, it gives a particular contribution with an increment to the total production. Therefore, you know how to estimate the marginal production. MP equals delta TP divided by delta QL. Delta TP stands for change in total production. This is change in input, labor. Marginal. It means when one worker is added to work, by how much would the total production change? It is called as marginal production. So, when we are going to learn the law of diminishing returns in the short run, you have to get a proper understanding on what is meant by total production and its behavior. What is meant by average production and its behavior. What is meant by marginal production and its behavior. Remember, throughout this production theory and the cost theory of cost and theory of production, we have to pay our attention to the behavior of the production. Behavior. It behaves in a special manner, right? So I said you that total production takes inverted U-shape like this. Here I have drawn the total production curve, right? Total production curve. Right. So when we go for the average production, its behavior is also the same shape, inverted U shape, but its shape is somewhat expanded U shape. AP goes like this. Because I am going to explain this to remind you, to remember you for your exams. This is exam oriented, right? You should not waste your time on studying and getting a proper understanding of the theories through going through pages by pages, right? It's a very simple one. First of all, you want to remember the behavioral pattern. So average production behaves like this. When we go to marginal production, its behavioral pattern of the curve is also inverted U shape, but it's a narrow U shape, right? MP. When I draw here MP, marginal production, right? It is this kind of a, it has this kind of a behavioral pattern, marginal production. Now, remember in your head, total production, average production, and marginal production. All of these productions are behaving, when we draw the curves, they are getting the shape of inverted U shape, right? What you want to remember here, when the production process is going on in the short run, these total production, average production, and marginal production are behaving in a special manner, special pattern. You have to remember that pattern. Now I am going to draw that pattern on the board. Now I'm going to draw the pattern on board how total production, average production, and marginal production are behaving in the short run. It is not changing from time to time or country to country. Or it is not what you call changing from person to person. This theory is always constant. Now I am going to prove you law of diminishing returns. To understand that, you have to learn the behavior of these three production curves in the short run. It happens like this. To this side, and vertical axis shows the production. Right? Horizontal axis, that's the input, right? That is labor. Labor inputs. Right. First of all, I am drawing here total production curve. Right. It goes like this. TP. Now remember, when the total production is at the maximum, right, marginal production becomes zero. We draw like this. MP goes like this. Then it diminishes, it becomes a negative value when the labor units are gradually increased. First, I drew this total production curve and I marked the maximum point of that up to here. Secondly, I drew this marginal production curve. At once it increases, then it declines. Thirdly, I am drawing average production curve. Right. Now, average production curve, gradually it comes up to maximum point of the average product. Then it starts to decline. Right. So here there is an intersection. We are just marking a dotted line like this. What I did, first I have drawn the total production curve. There is an order in drawing the graph, right? You have to remember that one. First, I have drawn this total production curve. Then I have marked the maximum point. Secondly, I do the marginal production curve. At once it increases and it reaches the maximum. Gradually it declines, and when total production is at the maximum, it goes down by recording here 0, right? Thirdly, I have drawn average production. When it reaches the maximum, it is intersected by this downward sloping NP curve, it goes like this. It never becomes negative, it diminishes. Right. Now, we can see here 3 production stages. First one, second one, third one. First stage, second stage, third stage. These are called as stages of production. Now, when we look into the first stage, you can see that total production, marginal production, average production, all are increasing. All are increasing. Therefore, the first stage is called as the effective law. The first stage is called as, right here, first stage, right? Law of increasing returns. Law of increasing returns, because all are increasing. When we go to the second stage, total production reaches the maximum at the time both AP and NP are declining. So we called it as law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. First stage, law of increasing returns. Second stage, law of diminishing returns. Right? I'm just underlining it. Now the third stage. Total production gradually decreases, average production also decreases, but marginal product becomes negative. So it is called as law of negative returns. Right. Now, what is the law you have to learn in the short run? Law of diminishing returns. Now, already, law of diminishing returns is shown in the second stage of the production. Law of diminishing returns. Now we give a particular importance to this one second stage. Now remember, in the production process, in the short run, the effective stage of the production, or the what you call most important, නිෂ්පාදන අධීර වෙන්නේ පුතේ හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. නිෂ්පාදනය මොන අධීරද? දෙවෙනි අධීර. මම ඒකට හේතුවක් කියන්නම්. එතකොට දෙවෙනි අධීරේදී the second stage you know that the effective law is law of diminishing returns, because average production, marginal production, they are what you call especially going down. But at that time, total production reaches the maximum. So when the total production of a firm reaches the maximum, we call it that is the efficient stage of production. අපි හැම වෙලෙම කියන එක තමයි නිෂ්පාදනය උපරිම මට්ටමට ගියාට පස්සේ ඒක හොඳම ස්ටේජ් එකනේ, හොඳම අධීරනේ. හරි. එහෙනම් මේක තමයි හොඳම අධීර. ඇයි? සෙකන්ඩ් ස්ටේජ් එක තමයි මෙහා ඉහළට යනවා. දැන් මෙතන පුතේ what you have to remember is the behavioral pattern. How the total production is behaving, how the marginal production is behaving, how the average production is behaving. Right. Now, we are giving a special attention to the second stage. Why? That is law of diminishing returns, which is included in your syllabus. To study what is law of diminishing returns. Now, you can get the definition for the law of diminishing returns. Right before that, now remember the behavior of AP and NP here. Now, when the total production gradually increases at an increasing rate, right? This is marginal production, this is average production. In the first stage, we can see that marginal production is greater than average production. First stage, average marginal production up, average production down. But when we come to the second stage is the most important stage, right? What happens to AP and NP? Here what happens? AP becomes greater than NP. AP becomes greater than NP. එහෙනම් එතෙන්දි මොකද වෙන්නේ? AP විශාල වෙනවා NP ට වඩා. අන්න. ඒක සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ කොහෙද? second stage එකේ. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. හරි. දැන් අපි ඔය ටික තියාගෙන තමයි පුතේ මේකේ definition එක ගන්න. ඔයාගෙන් අහනවා question එක. What is meant by law of diminishing returns? ඔයා මොකද කරන්නේ? කටපාඩම් කරගත්තු එකක් ලියන්න. In the short run of the production process, when the variable factors are successively increased, the total production first increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a decreasing rate, then reaches the maximum. When the total production is at the maximum, marginal product is 0. At the time, both AP and MP are declining by proving the condition of AP is greater than MP. But you have to remember this properly by referring to the graph. Hi. Now I am going to clean this again. I am drawing it a new one on the board. මොකද මම එහෙම ආයේ මකලා මේක ආයේ අඳින්න පුතේ ඔයගලන්ට අඳින විදිය ආයේ කියලා දෙන්න. මේකේ ස්ටේජස් ටික මතක තියාගන්න අඳින පැටර්න් එක මතක තියාගන්න. Now I am going to now I have drawn the vertical axis. It shows production. හොඳට බලාගන්න මේ axis එකම අපිට ගොඩක් important. Vertical axis production. This is horizontal axis. That is label. Label is there. Right. Now, first I am drawing total production curve on the TP. First, I have drawn TP. I am marking the maximum point. I am marking the maximum point. You can just keep as well. No problem. Secondly, you have to draw marginal production curve. It goes like this. MP. It increases at once, reaches the maximum, decline. Thirdly, you are drawing average production curve. This is the maximum of the average production curve. Then simply it declines. Right. Then you are marking here this intersection. This intersection. Now you can identify here 3 stages. First stage, second stage, third stage of the production. Right. First stage, I told you that all productions are increasing. Law of increasing returns. Law of increasing returns. Right. Second stage, law of diminishing returns. Especially AP and MP are declining. Total production is at the maximum. And the third stage, law of negative returns, because MP is becoming negative. That is why we call it law of negative returns. Right. Now, I am going to teach you how to remember the law of diminishing returns. That is the question given in your exam. Law of diminishing returns. What is meant by law of diminishing returns? At the time, what is the important stage of the production is second stage. Make a stage. Right. And I'm going to define in the short run of the production process. When the factor labor gradually increases, total production first increases at an increasing rate again. Maximum maximum decreasing rate again. First increases at an increasing rate, then increases at an increasing rate, then reaches the maximum, then total production tends to decline. When the total production is at the maximum, marginal production is 0. Right. Right. Marginal production is 0. Right. At the time, average production is greater than marginal production. So it is called as law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. When you are writing the law of diminishing returns, your marks are allocated on special points. First of all, you have to mention that this law of diminishing returns is effective in the short run. When variable factors are successively increased at a similar rate, labor successively increased. Then total production first increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a decreasing rate, reaches the maximum, tends to decline. Third point together. When the total production is at the maximum, marginal production is negative. Marginal production is negative. Marginal production is 0. Marginal production is 0, then it tends to decline. Right? At the time, AP is greater than MP. AP MP. This behavior is called as law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. It's very simple. What you have to remember is how to draw this graph. So when this question is given, much better, you can explain it and draw in the graph. And after drawing the graph, you can just explain it according to this graph above. In the short run, when the labor is successively increased at a similar rate, first the total production increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a decreasing rate, then reaches the maximum, then it tends to decline. When the total production is at the maximum, right, both average production and marginal production are declining, and marginal production becomes zero, right, by proving the condition of AP is greater than NP. So this behavioral pattern is shown by the law of diminishing returns. ඔක තමයි පුතේ ඒකට law of diminishing returns කියන්නේ. ඒකත් එක්කලා ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ short run is over. In the production, short run is over from that because your knowledge is tested on this one. It's very simple, right? As a summary, what we have to remember is the behavior of the total production, behavior of marginal production, behavior of average production. Because when the number of labor units are given in a schedule with total production, then you can estimate average production and marginal production. Then you have to draw a graph and mark it. Definitely, this behavioral pattern is coming because it is not changing from table to table. And as I said you that time to time, place to place, right? Wherever you learn the theory of law of diminishing returns, this is the effective graph, right? So I believe that you have a proper understanding on the short run now and the law of diminishing returns, right? Now we are going to switch on to the long run of the production process. I said that in the long run, both labor and capital are changing. There are no fixed factors in the long run. All are variable. අපි කියන හැම විචල්යක්ම පුතේ වෙනස් වෙනවා long run එකේ. එතකොට මම එතෙන්දිත් කිව්වා මොකද? Long run and short run does not depend on calendar days. Right. Now we are going to the long run. In the long run, you have to learn a special law called law of returns to scale. Law of returns to scale. In Sinhala we call it පරිමාණානුකූල ඵල. පරිමාණානුකූල ඵල. Law of returns to scale. මොකක්ද මේ? දැන් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔක graph එකක table එකක් දීලා පුතාලා දැන් ඇඳලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් පුතේ මේ law of returns to scale පිළිබඳව අපිට study කරන්න තියෙන්නේ through the behavioral pattern of the average cost curve, long run average cost curve. Now already you may have studied on average cost, but in my discussion I have not taught yet you average cost. I am teaching that when you are starting the unit cost. That's going to be covered today. අද මම එක ඔයගලන්ට උගන්වනවා. ඒක දැන් මෙහෙම මතක තියාගන්න. You all know that the shape of the average cost curve is U shape. You have to remember when you are marking the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. You should be very careful, right? So this axis shows the cost. This is output, right? So in the long run, when the output gradually increases, how the cost is behaving. And actually we are drawing average cost curve like this. AC curve takes U shape. I'll tell you something to remember. Earlier, I was explaining you theory of production. The shape of all the production curves, average production curve, total production curve, marginal production curve, all these three curves are having the shape of inverted U shape. Inverted U shape. අපි කියන උඩුකුරු U අකුරක හැඩය ගන්න. එතකොට ඒවැම cost එක පුතේ. Total cost. එතනින් ගත්තාම average cost, marginal cost. ඒවම අනිත් පැත්තට මොකද මේ? Mirror reflections. එහෙනම් මේ AC shows the cost of the average production. The cost of the average production is the average cost. The cost of the marginal production is the marginal cost. The cost of the total production is the total cost. We are discussing that in detail in the part of theory of cost. Now, to explain the law of returns to scale, we have to hire this average cost curve here. Now, here is the behavioral pattern of when the output gradually increases, how the cost is behaving. Now, law of returns to scale in the long run. They say that in the long run, right? So I'm extending this line a little bit, right? Okay, here it is out. Right. Now you can, when you investigate this, the behavior of the long run average cost curve, you can see that from here to here is the minimum point, right? Just say that it is A to B. A to B, you can see what is happening to the cost. Cost is declining. When the output is gradually increasing, cost is declining from A to B. A to B, cost is declining. So A to B is called as law of increasing. Law of increasing returns to scale. That's a law of increasing. අපි කියනවා මේක දැන් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගත්තොත් මෙතන කියන්නේ වැඩෙන පරිමාණානුකූල ඵල කියලා අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ. හරි. එතන අපි නා increasing returns to scale. මම එහෙම ලියන්නම්කෝ. Increasing returns to scale. Increasing returns to scale. මම ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි කරනවා කොහොමද වෙන්නේ කියලා. Now during this period A to B average cost is declining. This area is called as increasing returns to scale is effect. මොකද cost එක decline. And in every firm, for a very short period, when the output gradually increases, for a very short period, this output for the cost, especially cost, remains at a fixed level. So this area is called as constant returns to scale. Constant returns to scale. And returns to scale, right? Because here the cost is constant. Again, from B to D. Again, just say that I am putting here B to C like that to show you the constant nature. Then here to here, again B to D. You can see that the cost is gradually increasing. Cost is increasing. So it is called as decreasing returns to scale. Now, in law of returns to scale, you can identify there are three stages. Increasing returns to scale, during that period, the average cost is declined. Then constant returns to scale, during that period, the cost is constant. Then decreasing returns to scale, cost is gradually increasing. So, why we are putting these names here? Right? You may have heard another approach of explaining this by using the change in output, right? By dividing the cost. Change in output divided by the divided by the change in cost. Why we call this increasing returns to scale? Now the cost is declining. Right. I'll show you in the same graph, right, how this name is there. Now I am going to separate these costs into equal proportions. Equal proportions sort of under cost of the let's say that these are equal, right? And I am drawing they are relevant outputs. Even you also can practice that in your writing books, right? When you draw that in a scale, all of a පරිමාවට ඇඳොත් the gap from here to here, and the gap of here to here, and the gap of here to here. Gradually, when the output is increasing for the similar cost, it yields a greater output gradually. This gap is greater than this one, and this gap is greater than the previous two, previous two situations. It means gradually the gap of the output is increasing for the similar amount of cost. So that is why we are calling it increasing returns to scale. Increasing, it gives increasing returns for the same cost. So that is why we are keeping this name as increasing returns to scale. You have to remember during that period, cost is declining. Since the cost is declining, we call it economies of scale as well. අපි ඒකට පුතේ තව නමක් දෙනවා. Increasing returns to scale කියන එකටම economies of scale. Right? වැඩෙන පරිමාණානුකූල බල හේවත් ආර්ථික පිරිමැසුම් කියලා අපි සිංහලෙන් එකට කියනවා. ආර්ථික පිරිමැසුම්. ඇයි ආර්ථික පිරිමැසුම් කියලා අපි ඒකට කියන්නේ? නැත්නම් economies of scale කියන්නේ එහෙම නැත්නම් increasing returns to scale කියලා කියන්නේ. දැන් පුතාලා හොඳටම බලන්න, when the output is gradually increasing, cost is declining. අපිට මේක දකින්න හම්බ වෙනවා සමහර productions වලදී. Right? Some producers are telling us, right? So when you produce a particular product with more units, per unit cost is declining. Per unit cost is declining. Assume that I am printing books. I'm printing books. When I go to meet a person who is running a press, right? I'm just telling him that I'm going to print a book, right? And I'm going to print 1,000 copies, right? Then he gives me the quotation, right? He would say that if you are going for 1,000 copies, I can just print it for 2.5 lakhs, 250,000. එයා මට කියන පොත් 1000ක් ගහනවා නම් මම ඒක වලට ලක්ෂ 2.5කට කරනවා. එයා කියන ඊට පස්සේ හැබැයි ඔය පොත් 2000ක් වගේ ගහනවා නම් මට කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් ඕක 3.75කට විතර. අන්න දැන් ඔයාලට හිතන්න පුළුවන් පුතේ 1000කට 2.50ක් ගියා නම් එන 2000ක් ගහන්න 5ක් යනවා. එයා කියනෝනේ මට ඔයාලට කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් per unit cost declines. So that is why I am offering you 3.75 lakhs. මොකද අන්න ඒ firms වල වැඩ කරනවා මොකද්ද පුතේ? Increasing returns to scale. Increasing returns. When the number of output gradually increased, the per unit cost is declining. There are reasons for that. The පුතාලා syllabus එකේ ඕක පාඩම් කරද්දී ඔයගොල්ලෝ වෙනම පාඩම් කරනවා. Reasons for increasing returns to scale. Reasons for economies of scale. සිංහලෙන් කරන දරුවෝ නම් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. වැඩෙන පරිමාණානුකූල ඵලවලට බලපාන හේතු සාධක මොනවද? මේගොල්ලෝ කටපාඩම් කරනවා. මොකද understanding එකක් නෑ දැන් practical පැත්තේ. හරි practical understanding is not there, right? But they are just studying it. දැන් පුතාලට මේක practically මතක තියාගත්තොත් හරිම ලේසි. Now I am going to explain you the reasons for the increasing returns to scale, or why the cost of a firm is declining. Right? අපි දන්නවා පුතේ in the long run, especially in the long run, right? Machines are interconnected. We call it indivisibility in machinery. In the production process, in business organizations, right? They are just putting the machines one by one and they are all are connected to each other. It is called as indivisibility in machinery. Yantra Sutra wala abhajyatavu. Right? When the machines are interconnected, right? What happens? Time consumption will be less, right? They should not put more workers. Workers ලට අය cost එක ගෙවන්න ඕනේ නැහැ පුතේ. machines වලින් වැඩේ යනවා. හරි. එහෙනම් ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවලදී long run එකේදී since there is an indivisibility in machinery, cost is declined. Per unit cost can be declined. That is one reason for that. Second one, we know that in the long run, they are using superior techniques. Previously, they had manually operated machines. Now, automated machines are there. right? Sometimes they are using the robot techniques, right? So this production techniques and the introduction of technology also can cause to decline the cost of a particular industry. And cost that is also a reason for increasing returns to scale. At the same time, we know that in the long run, producers are buying bulks of the raw materials. We call it bulk buying of raw materials. අමුද්‍රව්‍ය තොග වශයෙන් මේගොල්ලෝ අරගෙන පුතේ ගබඩා කරලා රැස් කරලා තියාගන්න. A particular engaged in a particular business, he knows that how much raw materials are needed for 1 month, or 3 months, or 6 months, or 1 year. He knows it because he has got the trend of the business. He knows how much raw materials needed. Then what he is doing, he purchases the raw materials as a stock and he transports it to his premises and stored it somewhere. Even though there are fluctuations of the prices, normally what happens is actually prices are increasing. You know that we also are facing an inflation. Prices of the goods and services are increasing. That cannot be avoided. So even though the prices are increasing, right, because when the prices are increasing, it influences the cost. But if this producer has stored the raw materials somewhere, so bulk buying of raw materials, right, those price effects are not influenced to the cost. Therefore, the cost is declined, right? Bulk buying of raw materials. At the same time, in some business firms, in business organizations, there are some kind of costs which should be borne initially. අපි කියන අපිට ඒකට මූලික පිරිවැය. ඒ මූලික පිරිවැය දරුවට පස්සේ එතනින් එහාට ප්‍රොඩක්ෂන් එක කරගෙන යනවා. එයාට ඒ පිරිවැය ආය දරන්න සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට එයාට අර per unit cost එක ඒකෙම අඩු කරගන්න. Initial cost. Right? Once the initial cost is borne, when the output is going on, right, again that cost should not be borne. I am going to give you an example for that. දැන් මම පුතාලට ඒකට example එකක් කියන්නේ. මොකද මම දැන් ඕගොල්ලන්ට මතක ඇති කලින් ගත්ත example එකක් මේ printing books කියන්නේ. Printing books. දැන් පුතාලා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඔය press එහෙම දැකලා ඇති. මුද්‍රණ යන්ත්‍ර. ඒවා තියෙනවා පුතේ. Initially when you are going to print a book, right? දැන් මම පුතාලට ඒකට example එකක් දැන් අපි හිතමු මේ වගේ පොතක් අපි print කරන්න යනවා. යනකොට මේකේ තියෙන details ඔක්කොම ටික පුතේ අර ගන්නවා වෙනම sheet එකට aluminium sheet එකක්. ඒකට එක ගන්න. ඒක අරගෙන තමයි ඊට පස්සේ ඒක roller එකට attach කරලා press එක operate වෙන්නේ. So once that aluminium plate is made or prepared, it can be used to print not only 1,000 books, 5,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, over millions, billions. For all the books, they are used in the same plate. Initially, they are incurring that cost. When the production or the output is gradually going on, again, that cost should not be borne. As a result of that, what happens? This average cost is declined. Okay, so they are the main reasons for the increase in returns to scale or economies of scale. And in the meantime, you can find some other reasons, but in your syllabus, right, for advanced level, you have to remember, right, indivisibility in machinery can lower the cost. Superior techniques can lower the cost because all are used in the long run. All are used in the long run. Then bulk buying of raw materials can decrease the cost, right? Improved technology can reduce the cost, right? In the meantime, managerial advantages, right? Management, less wastage, right? Through that also the cost can be declined, right? So many reasons are there, but now when you go back to your notes, the school, right? You can just find the reasons. Now, keeping that on the head, you can just remember how the cost is declining of a firm during this period. So this period is called as increasing returns to scale, average cost is decreased. So when we go to the second law, I have written a constant return to scale. අපි කියන ස්ථාවර පරිමාණානුකූල පද. පුතේ මේක සමහරට effective නැති වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. මේකට reasons නැහැ. It happens for a what you call very short period. It's momentary. අපි කියන එක මොහොතකට වගේ තමයි හිටින්නේ. Output value එක cost එකේ ඒ වෙනසක් නැතුව තියෙනවා. Shortly after that, it starts decreasing returns to scale. Gradually, the cost is increased. The same stage, called in economics as diseconomies of scale. පරිමාණානුකූල නොපිරිමැසුම් කියලා පුතේ අපි ඒක සිංහලෙන් කියනවා. පරිමාණානුකූල නොපිරිමැසුම්. Decreasing returns to scale, එහෙම නැත්නම් diseconomies of scale. It means once the firm is reaching a particular period of production, again, when the output gradually increases, average cost starts to increase. Average cost starts to increase. It's very simple. Now, assume that there's a particular garment factory. There's a garment factory, right? When it operates with new machines, right, new capital for a period of time, actually, they are not having the depreciation of capital. They should not incur a particular cost additional to repair them because for a period of time, smoothly they can use these machines. But after a certain period of time, there are more repairs. They have to replace some items. It is incurred. It's incurring a particular cost. Once the production comes to a particular level, from that, they have to replace the items. It's called as depreciation on capital. Depreciation on capital is having a cost. Right? අපිට ඒක හදලා මේව කරලා ඉදිරියට අරගෙන යන්න නම් ඒකට cost එකක් යනවනේ නේද? හරි. ඒ වගේම අපි වාහනයක් ඒක පාවිච්චි කරන that's also capital. When the vehicle is used continuously for about 5 years, right? Then it gives more and more troubles, right? Repairs. They have to replace some parts, right? It is an extra cost to this firm. Therefore, what happens then? The cost is increasing, right? So one thing we are learning here, depreciation on capital is. At the same time, in the long run of the business firms, there are more labor-related problems. More labor-related problems. අපි කියන ශ්‍රමිකයොත් එක්කලා සිද්ධ වෙන යම් ගැටලුකාරී තත්ත්වයන් මත. When the workers are working for a long period of time, we know that they become specialized. They know how the production process is going on. They have a proper knowledge. They are very efficient. So at the time, what these workers are doing, they are just demanding higher salaries, bonus, commissions, right? They are demanding more and more through trade unions. At the time, the firm will have to pay them, or they will have to fulfill the demand of the workers. Why? They are well-experienced workers. They are the workers who have given more profits to the firm. They have given a greater contribution. At once the firm cannot, the what you call owners of the firm, or the entrepreneurs cannot decline their demand. Right? පහළ දාන්න බෑ. ඒගොල්ලන්ට සිද්ධ වෙනවා. එහෙනම් පුතේ ආයෙ මොකද වෙන්නේ? long run එකේදී ඒ වගේ cost එකක් වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Labor related problems. They cannot recruit new workers by removing all the old workers. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. එහෙම අලුතෙන් එන අය ආයෙ specialization ගන්න කාලයක් යනවා. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. එහෙනම් මොකද මේගොල්ලෝ කරන්නේ? අනිවාර්යෙන් ඒවා දෙන්න වෙන නම් පුතේ labor related problems නිසා cost එක වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Long run එකේ. At the same time, there are more administration failures, administration problems, especially corruptions. They are going on in the long. They are ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දිගු කාලෙදි සිද්ධ වෙනවා. When the firms are earning more and more profits, sometimes the management, right? They can just do some what you call discrepancies to the income they are receiving, profit they are receiving. ඒවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙනම් here you have learned what is meant by law of returns to scale in the long run. Law of returns to scale is shown by average cost curve. It is U-shaped. Vertical axis is used to show the cost. Horizontal axis for output. This is U-shaped curve. Gradually, the output is increasing. Here, the average cost is declining. Again, when the output is for a very short period of time, cost remains constant. Again, what happens is average cost is increasing with the increase in output. Accordingly, we have divided the law of returns to scale in the long run into 3 stages. A to B, increasing returns to scale is effective. It is also called as economies of scale. B to C, very small period, right? Constant returns to scale is effective. Then B to D, decreasing returns to scale is effective. It's also called as diseconomies of scale. So I believe that you have got a proper understanding on the behavior of the long run in a production process. In your syllabus, in the part of production, short run and long run. Especially you have learned 2 laws, law of diminishing returns in the short run and law of returns to scale in the long run. So this is the end of the knowledge of production. You have to gain to go further. අපි මෙතනින් එහාට යන්න. ඔයගලන්ට අවශ්‍ය වෙන පුතේ දැනුම තමයි production එක සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් අරගෙන. එතකොට මෙතනින් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට theory of production part is over. අපි කියන නිෂ්පාදන න්‍යායේ මූලික කොටස් ටික ඔතනින් ඉවර වෙනවා. Right. Now I'm going to switch on to the theory of cost. That is actually simply called as cost of production. Right? I'm explaining all these things actually without using you any slide, because this should be a practical one. So I'm going to teach you the cost also in the same way. Then easily you can understand how the theory of cost is applied in the subject of economics. Now remember, in the part of the production, you studied or you learned, you got an understanding of the behavioral pattern of the production curves. In the theory of cost also, you have to learn the behavior pattern of the cost curves. It's a very simple one, right? You can just remember to practical examples. Right. As the second part of our session, now I'm going to switch on to the part of theory of cost. Right. Okay. Now, in the short, in the production function, we learned quantity of output is a function of labor and capital. To understand, we need this theory of production. What we have learned in the theory of production, right? This is the production function. Q equals F within brackets L and K. This labor, in the short run, we learned labor is the variable factor. ඒක විචල්‍යයි. ඒක ඇවිල්ලා ඒක වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඒක constant factor එකක් නෙමෙයි. It's a variable factor. Labor is the variable factor. Capital is a constant factor. It's a fixed factor. Fixed factor. So accordingly, we can identify 2 types of costs. Costs for the variable factors. It's called as total variable cost. I'm giving you examples for that later, right? Okay. And the cost for the fixed factors called as total fixed cost. So in a business firm, when total variable costs are added to total fixed costs, right? It's equal to the total cost. අපි කියනකොට මුළු පිරිවැය හැදෙන්නේ මුළු විචල්්‍ය පිරිවැයට මුළු ස්ථාවර පිරිවැය එකතු වෙනවා. එතකොට තමයි මුළු පිරිවැය හැදෙන්නේ. හරි. අපි බලමු in a production firm, in a production process, what are the variable costs we come across? Especially, you know that actually cost for labor is variable. Workers are changing. Sometimes the workers are increasing, sometimes they are decreasing. That since the number of workers are changing, it's a variable cost. Not only that one, electricity bills, electricity charges, telephone bills, transport charges, right? They are always changing. They are the variable costs. Sometimes the raw material cost, variable. Now, you know that in the present context in Sri Lanka, right? Transport cost is very high. Since the prices of fuel is increasing, they are just compensate that loss through the charges of transport. They are changing. Sometimes one person would take for higher 2,500 rupees. Another one would say for the same distance, it is 4,000. They are changing, variable. Therefore, the electricity bill is also like that. Now you can just inquire that in your homes, right? Your monthly electricity bill is not constant. If it is 1,500, it is not 1,500 for all months. They are changing. Sometimes it's increasing, sometimes it's decreasing. It never becomes constant. But fixed cost, it's for capital. When you rent a building, the building rent is monthly, same amount. Installments, same. Then amortization charges. Once you have got a loan, with the interest, you have to pay the same amount monthly installment. When you lease a vehicle, that leasing installment is same in all the months. That is how they are calculated. That is fixed. Especially you have to remember, cost for the capital is fixed one. Cost for the variable factors, that's a variable cost. So that's why we call this total variable cost. This is total fixed cost. Then it is equal to the total cost. Right. Now, after having this understanding, you have to study the behavior of this cost curves. You have to remember here, you have to learn here what is total variable cost, the behavioral pattern of the total variable cost, then the behavioral pattern of the total fixed cost, then the total cost. For the convenience of our study, I am going to explain you first total fixed cost. Total fixed cost එක දැන් මම පුතාලට ඉස්සෙල්ලාම පැහැදිලි කරන්න යනවා. TFC, total fixed cost. Right? Total fixed cost. අපි මේකේ short form TFC විදිහට ගන්නවා. දැන් මේකේ වෙන්නේ පුතේ when the output gradually increases. Gradually increases. මම ගන්නවා 0 1 2 3 4 like this. And to this part total fixed cost, I'm just taking here 100 volts, right? 100, 100, 100, 1. Now you can see that even though the output is gradually increasing, cost is same. So this kind of a cost is called as total fixed cost. So when we draw a curve or the graphical presentation of the total fixed cost curve, right? This one, this axis output, this is for cost, total fixed cost. Now you can see that the total fixed cost is 100. And when we are just explaining what you call increasing the number of output 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, many number of output you can write increase, but cost is same. Accordingly, you will draw this kind of a cost curve, TFC. That is a straight line that is parallel to the output axis. This is how the total fixed cost curve is drawn. මේ විදිහට තමයි අපි පුතේ මුළු ස්ථාවර පිළිවෙල වක්‍රය අඳින්නේ. හරි ලේසි. දැන් බලන්න fixed cost වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් මේක මේ විදිහට ඉන්නේ. හරි. Now I am going to explain you regarding total variable cost. හරි. Total variable cost. මුළු විචල්්‍ය පිළිවෙල. Now when I was explaining, I told you that the total variable cost, TVC, right? Short form is TVC. We can actually just having a special behavior here. Sometimes the total cost is increasing, variable cost is increasing. Sometimes the variable cost is decreasing. So we can't identify a proper behavior for this. Especially we are paying our attention to the behavioral pattern of the cost, behavior of the costs. Therefore, its behavior is very what you call complex. We don't get a some variable cost behavior. The economists have suggested that the shape of the variable cost, total variable cost, should be this type cost, right? Right. This is output. Now I simply draw the shape. It's like this one. TVC is like this. So when you want to get this shape, we can just give the numbers, give the values, right? So when you mark the values, this shape would come. But do not put much attention on the values given. Shape. Total variable cost goes like this. First, it increases with the output. Gradually increases with the output. Increasing with the output. Right? This is the shape of the TVC. Now, specialty here, variable cost. Which are labor. When the production is zero, variable cost, total variable cost is also zero. When I have not just started the business, right? I should not pay for the workers because I have not recruited workers yet. Therefore, when the output is zero, total variable cost is also zero. But it is not happening with the total fixed cost. Even though I have not started the business, I have to pay the total fixed cost. For example, assume that to start a restaurant, I have rented a building. Monthly, I have to pay him 120,000 rupees. Then, through an agreement, I just get the building. I'm going to start my restaurant. The owner of the building doesn't matter whether I have started the business or not. Whether I have what you call having losses or having more profits. I have to pay him 120,000 rupees per month continuously. Even though the production is at zero, therefore, total fixed cost is effective. That is why when we draw the TFC, with the output, right? It goes like this. Here it is, I have got 100, TFC behaves like that. So even at the zero output, TFC is effective. But here, when we compare these two graphs, right? Here, when the what you call production is at zero, variable cost is also zero. Right. Now I am going to add these two costs together. It means TFC plus TVC to gain TC. To get the total cost, I am going to add total fixed cost and total variable cost. Now, it can simply be understood with a graphical presentation. Now, I am cleaning this graph and I am going to draw a somewhat big graph to have a proper understanding. Now, here is the cost. Right. Here is the output. Right. Now, first of all, I am drawing the total fixed cost curve. Its behavior is like this. This is TFC. Then I am drawing total variable cost. TVC. When I am adding this total variable cost to total fixed cost to gain the total cost curve, total fixed cost cannot give any shape to the total cost because remember that total cost curve takes the shape entirely similar to the total variable cost. අපි කියනකොට මේ මුළු විචාල පිරිවැය වක්‍රයේ හැඩය සහ මුළු පිරිවැය වක්‍රයේ හැඩය දෙකම එකයි. දෙකම එකයි. මොකද මේ shape එක දෙන්නේ TVC මොකද මෙයාට කිසිම හැඩයක් දෙන්න බෑ. But TC curve starts with the intercept of TFC. මෙතනින් තමයි මෙයා පටන් අර මේ වෙනකොට this is TC. දැන් අපි මේක ගත්තොත් මේක similar විදිහට මේ දෙක යන්නේ. gap එක සමානයි. right? TVC TC මෙහෙම ඉදෙනවා. එහෙනම් the shape of the TC curve entirely similar to TVC, but it starts with this intercept. And even though when the production is zero, even though the total variable cost is zero, total cost is there. Total cost is similar to TFC. What you have to remember here, especially at the zero output, when the output is zero, output zero TFD, හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න පුතේ. Right? TC is equal to TFC. This knowledge is needed for you for answering MCQs. MCQs වලට questions හදන ඔයගොල්ලෝ. එහෙනම් හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න පුතේ. When the output is zero, TC and TFC are similar. Starting point එක සමානයි. Right. Now you have got it. Right. Here I have explained you the behavioral pattern of the total cost. Right. Once the total cost is estimated, here also we have to learn the types of average costs and the types of marginal costs. As we have studied in the theory of production, total production, average production and marginal production. Here we have to study, right? Average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost or average cost. At the same time, marginal cost. Right. Now, I am going to explain to you how to get the average values of these three types of costs. I am cleaning the board and I am writing the equation again, how the total cost is obtained. I say to that, TC equals TVC plus TFC. Out of TC, we have to get average total cost or average cost. How we get it? Total cost divided by quantity. Output. It is equal to average cost or average total cost. Right. When you have to find the total variable cost from average variable cost, right? What we are doing, total variable cost divided by the number of output, then we get average variable cost, TVC over Q. Then TFC, from TFC we can get AFC. AFC is by TFC over Q. With the number of units are divided by the total values, we can gain the average values. You know it. Now, we have to learn their behavioral patterns. How the average total cost is drawn, how the average fixed cost is drawn, how the average variable cost is drawn. I'm going to prove you, right, one thing. Remember, except this average fixed cost curve, all the other cost curves are taking the shape of U, letter U. But here the average fixed cost is having a different shape. Right? Now I'm taking a table here, right? Q quantity 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm putting here, right? And I'm putting here the what you call values of TFC like this. Then you have to get AFC from T. There. TFC is always same. I got this example previously as well, right? Now to gain the AFC, we divide TFC by Q. Here there is no value. Here it is 100. Here it is 50. When we divide this by 100, it will be 33.33 like that. 25 like that. So when these numbers are obtained, so when you are marking it, here is the output. Here is the AFC, average fixed cost. So when you mark this, you will get a special shape for the average fixed cost curve like this, AFC. This shape is called as rectangular hyperbola. Shape of the average fixed cost is rectangular hyperbola. Rectangular hyperbola. ඍජු කෝණාශ්‍රාකාර බහුවලයක හැඩය ගන්න. Right. හොඳට බලා ගන්නකො ඒක. Right. Average fixed cost is a rectangular hyperbola. Right. Now, from TFC you have got AFC. Then you have to learn the shapes of average cost curve and average variable cost curve plus marginal cost curve. I am teaching you a very important point to remember. This is exam oriented, right? These curves, especially average cost curve, average variable cost curve, and marginal cost curve, they are behaving in a special pattern. Remember, these curves are in U shape, but when all are drawn in one graph, I'm cleaning this one, right? When all the average cost curves, right? Average cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. දැන් මම මෙතන අරන් දෙලා පුතේ AC, ABC and MC curves තුන. Average cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. What is meant by marginal cost? That is the additional cost incurred in the production process for an additional output. When the output is increased by 1 unit, right? How much cost is incurred to the firm? It is estimated marginal cost equals delta TC divided by delta Q. Delta TC divided by delta Q. Q stands for the cost right here. When delta TC, change in total cost, change in output. When the output changes by a particular amount, by how much would the total cost changes? ඒකට අපි කියන පුතේ marginal cost කියන. එහෙනම් අපිට දැන් තරකයේ තියෙන්නේ මේ curves තුනේ behavioral pattern එක. මොකද අපි දැන් මේක මෙහෙම කරන්නේ. ඔයාලට ඊට පස්සේ මම උගන්වනවා profit maximization of a perfectly competitive firm. Actually, this unit is attached to market structures. But since our lecture is limited for 2 hours, right? I am teaching you the sufficient parts of this, especially exam oriented, right? Even in the theory of production, we have learned short run behavior. As a summary, I am just reminding you at the end of this session, right? එතෙන්දි මම පුතාලට පැහැදිලි කරනවා behavioral patterns මතක තියාගන්න ඇඳගන්නේ කොහොමද. එහෙම කතාවක් තමයි දැන් මෙතනත් මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අඳින්න යන්නේ. Now I am going to draw here the behavior of average cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost in a single graph. Right. This side for cost, this is for. Right. There is a method of drawing this. Remember this, very, very important, this one, right? Very, very important. First of all, you have to draw the AC curve. AC curve is U-shaped. AC. You may remember this AC because previously we came across this when we were learning law of returns of scale. Where also we studied the behavioral pattern of the AC. At the time I told you that even though you don't have a knowledge of AC curve, actually it's U-shaped. AC is like this. Right? Then we have to draw the ABC curve in the same graph. When you draw the ABC graph, you remember this side is having a greater gap. මම මේක තවත් පහසු වෙන්න පුතේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ටිකක් මේ පැත්තට කරලා දෙන්නම්. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලන් මේක මතක තියාගන්න ලේසි. Output අපි මේ side එකට දාලා, right? First you have to draw the AC curve. ඔන්න අපි AC එක. Then we have to draw the ABC, right? It's drawn like this with a greater gap here. And it minimizes and goes like this. The behavior of the AC and AB, when the output gradually increases, the gap between this AC and ABC is somewhat great, right? So when we pay attention to the minimum points, here is the minimum point of AC, here is the minimum point of ABC. Therefore, when the output of a firm gradually increases to this side, when the output goes like this, first the average cost becomes minimized. Then the average variable cost becomes minimized, then the average cost is minimized. Now we are going to add the marginal cost for this one. You are going to add the marginal cost. When the marginal cost curve is drawn, it is also U-shaped, right? It goes like this. It becomes minimized first and intersects the minimum points of both AC and ABC and goes up. So the behavior of the MC curve is MC curve intersects both ABC and ABC curves at their minimum points. At the time, this MC curve is increasing. You have to remember this pattern. You should have the knowledge of drawing AC curve, ABC curve, and MC curve in one graph. How that is behaved? First of all, we are drawing AC curve. Then you have to draw ABC curve with a gap, greater gap for here, and becomes minimizes and it reaches a little. Thirdly, you are drawing MC curve. It starts like this, becomes minimized. Then here minimum point is intersected when it is sloping upwards. That is the behavioral pattern. So you may remember that I have told you this kind of a special pattern to remember in Law of Diminishing Returns, where I drew first total product curve, then marginal product curve, then average product. Right? As a summary, I'll give you at the end of the unit what you have to remember in cost of production before going to profit estimations, right? Okay. So what you have to remember here is AC, ABC, and MC. Again, I'm drawing this, right? I'm cleaning the board for a practice for you, right? I'm drawing it again. You see the order. Vertical axis, horizontal axis, here 0, here cost, here output, right? First of all, I am drawing AC curve. It is U-shaped, AC curve. Then I am drawing ABC with a gap for here, minimizes, then reaches right. MC curve intersects both of them at their minimum points and going on. This pattern you have to remember. Why I'm telling this to keep this pattern in your head? This is needed for the profit estimations. Therefore, we'll have a closer look at this graph again. I put make a balagan. Right? Have a closer look at there. What you want to remember is the behavior of the cost curves. I have drawn AC curve first, U-shaped. Then ABC curve, that is also U-shaped. And you keep your mind at which points they become minimized. Here the speciality is with the minimum points, right? When we take in an order, MC from here, right? First MC becomes minimized, then ABC becomes minimized, then AC becomes minimized. It goes like this. So when MC is going up, MC becomes minimized first, then it intersects ABC minimum point, then the minimum point of AC and going on. Actually, what I wanted to stress here, to pass your A level, to get a proper mark for the question of theory of production and cost and the market structures, you have to remember especially two things. Now I am going to show you that as a summary. In the production part, I told you to remember law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns. Where I told you to draw it like this. This side production, vertical axis for production. This is for labor. First of all, I told you to draw the total product T. Then I told you to mark the maximum point. You can just do with me if you like, right? You can just take a piece of paper and practice this. Total product, get the maximum. Then we draw marginal product. Then we are drawing average product. We are marking the 3 stages there. So where you learn that the second stage shows the law of diminishing returns. When we come to the unit cost, theory of cost, what you have to remember as a summary is this graph. This part for cost, vertical axis cost, horizontal axis out. First, I told you to draw the AC flow. Then ABC. Finally, MC. These are the 2 graphs you have to remember in this unit. Everything we have learned, the total values and everything in the cost part, to come to this stage. Because you want to remember, you want to get an understanding on how the average cost, how the average variable cost, how the marginal cost is behaving. To learn this, you may have studied various types of schedules, right? Practical presentations, many more things. But finally, what you have to remember is this one. You have to remember is this one. Right? Because by using the knowledge on this part, right, you are asked several questions on market structures, estimating the profits. Actually, now the cost of production is over. Theory of production is over. Theory of cost is over. These 2 parts are over. You need finally the knowledge of these 2 things. So I said you that the cost of the production based on the theory of production. When we keep a mirror here, especially we pay attention to marginal product and average product. Marginal product and average product. Their mirror reflection is shown by the MC and AC curves, right? A curves right? Production, here labor, right? I'm just drawing MP and AP. Make them up mirror reflection. Right? Make a U shape. AP's cost is AC. Make a here mirror reflection. Right? The cost of marginal product is marginal cost. The cost of average product is average cost. Now here you can clearly see that here the MP curve intersects the average product curve. Marginal product curve, average product curve, right? So marginal product curve intersects the average product curve at its maximum point. Similarly, in the cost analysis, marginal cost curve intersects the average cost curve at its minimum point. Here maximum point, here minimum point. That is the relationship here. Right. Okay. Now I am going to switch on to my third part of the discussion. First part I discussed on the production. Second part I discussed on cost. And now the third part. It is market structures. Here I am going to give you the main attention. I'm going to pay your main attention on one market structure that is called perfect competition. Other than perfect competition, you have to study monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. We'll discuss the other market structures in a forthcoming lecture, right? If you have got something from you, your comments are highly welcome, right? If you just say that you have got a proper understanding on this unit, you can just contact our organizers and get my support for any unit you prefer. Doesn't matter. All the 10 units can be described like this. These are very simple. Starting from national income accounting, macroeconomic equilibrium, international trade, public finance, economic growth and development. All these are very simple. Why this simplicity can be found with an order? When you study in an order, පුතාලා පිළිවෙලකට මේවා ඉගෙන ගන්න. පිළිවෙලකට නම් කොටස් ටික දෙන්නේ. මේක හරිම ලේසි. Economics is very, very simple. Right? So, I'm going to go for the third part. එහෙනම් මම තුන්වෙනි කොටසට පුතේ දැන් එන්නේ. Market structures. හරි? ඒ එනකොට හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. Market structures වල අපිට මේක හොඳට ඔළුවේ තිබ්බොත් මේ කීවර pattern. මම එන්නම් දැන් market structures. In your syllabus, market structures are basically classified based on some main criteria. There are number of firms in the market, nature of the products they are producing, nature of the profits they earn, and the nature of the entrance and exit of the firms, right, to and from the market. Right. Based on the criteria, right, we classify the market structures as perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly. I'm not going to describe you regarding monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly. I highly concentrate on perfect competition because profit estimations are given in your exams based on the perfect competition. You require to remember the characteristics of other market structures. Monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. Their profit estimations are not heard in your syllabus, right? Perfect competition. Now here also you want to remember first the difference between a market and a firm. Market and a firm. You know that a market is made up of a collection of firms. අපි කියන පුතේ වෙළඳපොළක් හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ ආයතන එකතු වෙලා. සමහර වෙළඳපොළවල් වල සමහර marketing, some markets only one firm. අපි එන ඒවට කියනවා oligopoly. Sorry, monopoly. Monopoly නම් එක firm. තව තියෙනවා duopoly. Two firms. So මෙයන් අපුතාලට ඒවා duopoly වගේ නැහැ. Remember, when there are large number of firms available in a market, we call it a perfect competition. Right? At the same time, in a perfectly competitive market, the products the firms are producing are homogeneous or identical. And there is a free entrance and exit for the firms to and from the market. A market එකේ සිටින ආයතන වලට ඕන වෙලාවක එන්න පුළුවන්, ඕන වෙලාවක යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා පුතේ profits earned by a perfectly competitive firm in the short run, it's an abnormal profit or a supernormal profit. අතිප්‍රාමාණික ලාභයක් ලබනකොට කෙටි කාලය. Right? In the long run, they earn normal profit. ප්‍රාමාණික ලාභයක් ලබනවා දිගු කාලේ. In the very long run, ඉතා දිගු කාලෙදී these firms are having losses. පාඩු ලබනවා. ඒ පාඩුව ලබද්දී firm එක market එකෙන් යනවාද නැත්නම් market එකෙම ඉන්නවද? Right? Whether the firm is existing in the market or leaving the market mainly determines on the behavior of the cost of the firm. That is why I have taught you previously production and cost. Right? Now we'll see how the demand curve and the supply curve, right? Basic things are organized in a perfectly competitive firm. අපි කියන පූර්ණ තරඟකාරී වෙළඳපළක් කියලා. පූර්ණ තරඟකාරී වෙළඳපළක තියෙන එක ආයතනයක් ගැන තමයි අපි කතා කරන්නේ. අපි ඒකට කියනකොට perfect competition firm. නැත්නම් perfectly competitive firm. Right. First thing, we have to construct here to estimate the profit of a firm. Then especially අපි යන්නේ පොතේ profit සාකච්ඡා කරා. Where I have told you that in the short run, a perfectly competitive firm earns abnormal profits or supernormal profits. අධි ප්‍රාමාණික ලාභයක් පුතේ මේගොල්ලෝ ලබනවා. What is this abnormal profit or supernormal profit? It means their revenue is greater, total revenue is greater than the total cost. මුළු පිරිවැයට වැඩි. ඒගොල්ලෝගේ මුළු අයභාරය වැඩි. අපි කියනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ ලාභ ලබනවා. ඒවා අපි මේකදී estimate කරනවා මේ average costs වල තියෙන behavior එක. දැන් කියන අපි දැන් profit හොයන්න නම් අපි revenue curves පුතේ ඉගෙන ගත්තේ නැහැ නේ තාම. මම පුතාට revenue ගැන ඉගෙනුවේ මොකුත් නැහැ cost විතරයි ඉගෙන. හරි. එහෙනම් අපි දැන් එනවා perfectly competitive firm. You have heard that and you have seen, you have read that in a perfectly competitive firm, demand curve is in horizontal shape. Price is there, this is the demand. මම මේකට reason එකත් එක්ක උදාහරණයක් කියලා දෙන්න. Why the demand curve becomes perfectly elastic in a perfectly competitive firm? In a perfectly competitive market, there are a large number of suppliers. Therefore, one supplier supplies a small proportion to the market. Therefore, one supplier can influence the price. ඒ කියන්නේ පුතේ market එකේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා price එක determine වෙන්නේ based on demand and supply. Demand and supply. When a market price එක determine. When a firm enters the market, that firm has to accept the price determined in the market. එහෙනම් මේ market එකේ price එක දැන් firm එකට ගන්න වෙනවා. එහෙනම් පුතාලා දන්නවා a perfectly competitive firm is called as a price taker. එයා මිල ගන්නෙක්. He cannot change what you call influence to change the prices. එයාට මොකුත් කරන්න බෑ. එයා මොකද ගන්නේ? තියෙන price එක පුතේ එයාට ගන්න වෙනවා. That is why we call it a price taker. එයා price taker කෙනෙක්. හරි. එහෙනම් market එකෙන් දැන් price taker වුණා. Therefore it cannot influence the price. එන fixed price එකක් තියෙන්නේ මෙයාට. For the fixed price, මේ fixed price එකට මේ supplier ගේ බඩු ගන්න කට්ටිය එනවනේ. Consumers, buyers. Therefore, this firm faces the demand curve. එයා මූණදනේ ඉල්ලුම්වක් මේ. උදාලා හොඳට තේරුම් ගන්න ඒ term එක. The firm faces the demand curve. Like this. Right? Various quantities are demanded for the same price. මෙයාගෙන් මේ තියෙන එකම මිලට various quantities are demanded by buyers. Therefore, the firm faces the demand curve like this, perfectly elastic. Now the demand curve is okay. Right. Now, to estimate the short run profit, short run profit maximization. අපි කියනවා කෙටි කාලීන ලාභ උපරිම කරන්නේ. දැන් පුතාලට මම කිව්වා මෙයාගේ ලාභය මොකද්ද? What is the profit? Abnormal or supernormal? ඒකේ ලාභය හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. අපි බලමු දැන් ඒකට කලින් අපි average මේකේ දැන් revenues ටික ඉගෙන ගන්න එක. හරි. එහෙනම් පුතේ අපිට සිද්ධ වෙනවා revenue ටික ඉගෙන ගන්න. දැන් අපි total revenue of a firm මුළු ආදායම කොහොමද හොයන්නේ? Total revenue of a firm is estimated by multiplying the price by the quantity. අපි මිල ප්‍රමාණයෙන් වැඩි කරලා මුළු අයභාරය ගන්න. හරි. අපිට දැන් average revenue ගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද average analysis තමයි අපි graph එකට අදින්නේ. මොකද average cost අපි දන්නවා, average variable cost දන්නවා. ඒ ටික දන්න නිසා අපි average වලට තමයි මේක හදන්නේ. හරි. Total revenue means P into Q. Then average revenue should be total revenue divided by the number of quantities. I am going to expand this again. Therefore, average revenue I can write, instead of TR, I am writing P into Q divided by Q again. When we are proceed from Q to Q, P is remaining, therefore AR should be equal to P. In a perfectly competitive firm, average revenue should be equal to price. Price එකට සමානයි. ඒ නිසා මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙයාගේ average revenue curve එක similar to the demand curve. Perfectly last. Average revenue එක ඒ විදිහටම තමයි හිටියේ. අපිට profit maximization වලදී පුතා ඊට පස්සේ හොයාගන්න ඕනේ marginal revenue එක. Marginal revenue. AR, MR ඒ දෙක අපි හොයාගන්න. What is MR? Marginal revenue. Marginal revenue, we estimate total revenue divided by total cost. Additional revenue gained by an additional output. Right. This one also I'm writing delta TR means delta P into delta Q. That is delta TR divided by delta Q again. When we cross delta Q to delta Q, remaining one is delta. Therefore, MR or marginal revenue should be equal to delta. Now, in a perfectly competitive firm, since there is only one price, there is no change in the price. Price එක වෙනස්කම් මේකේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් this MR should entirely be similar to the price. එහෙනම් MR equals price. එහෙනම් පුතේ අපිට chance එකක් තියෙනවා දැන් MR curve එක විදිහට මෙයාම ගන්න. So in a perfectly competitive firm, demand curve, average revenue curve, marginal revenue curve, all are same. They are shown by the same graph, same curve. Right. Now I am coming to the profit side. In a firm, we estimate the profit by dividing the total cost from the total revenue. අපි මුළු අයභාරයෙන් මුළු ආදායමෙන් මුළු පිරිවැය අඩු කරාට පස්සේ පුතේ අපිට එන්නේ ලාභය. ඒක අපි හොයනවා මෙහෙම. Profit equals TR minus TC. මේ විදිහට අපි ලාභය හොයනවා. හරි. එතකොට in a perfectly competitive firm, for the profit maximization, there should be some conditions. It's equilibrium. ඒක අපි කියන සමතුලිතය වෙන්නේ always when MR is equal to MC. MR should be equal to MC at the equilibrium. Make a first condition. MR should be equal to MC. Right. Then mama gonna the short run profit maximization. We know that it should be an abnormal profit. Abnormal profit in the now total cost එක පල්ලෙහා යන්න ඕනේ, average cost එක ඉහළ තියෙනවා. දැන් මම මේකේ මේ AR තියෙනවා, MR උත් තියෙනවා ගැටලුවක්. දැන් මම මේකටම ගේනවා පුතේ. ඔයාලට මම අර කලින් උගන්වපු presentation. මොකක්ද? ඔයා දැනගන්න ඕනේ how the AC and MC are behaving. මේ විදිහට නෑ යන්නේ. මම දැන් මෙයාව copy paste කරලා මෙතෙන්ට ගියා. AC MC. ඔන්න මම මෙතෙන්ට ගියා. හොඳට බලාගන්න graph එක දිහා. I have brought here MC and MC. Yes. For the equilibrium, MR should be equal to MC. එහෙනම් මෙන්න MC මෙන්න MR. Here is the equilibrium quantity. Right. For this quantity, average cost is intersected here, and I'm drawing another line here. That is average cost. Right. Now, I'm putting here E for equilibrium. Here E1. Now, at the MR equals MC point, equilibrium in the firm is determined. Now, I am going to estimate the profit. දැන් අපි බලමු profit එක කොහොමද ගන්න කියලා පුතේ. profit area එක හඳුනා ගන්න. දැන් ඔයාලට පේනවා. අපි profit එක හඳුනා ගන්නකොට අපිට හදා ගන්න ඕනේ TR minus TC වලින් තමයි අපි profit එක බලන්නේ. හරි. ඊට the total revenue. දැන් මෙන්න average revenue curve එක. For this quantity, right? Q0PE, this big area represents total revenue. Since it is AR revenue, right? It's equal to price, right? Q into AR, that is total revenue. This area is a total revenue area. Total revenue area. Then total cost. Total cost we find Q multiplied by AC. එතකොට TC අපිට එන්නේ. එහෙනම් 0 AC E1 Q is total cost area. Here total revenue area, here total cost area. When we deduct the total cost area from the total revenue area, we remain the profit. So this area shows profit. This kind of a profit is called as abnormal profit. It is in the shortcut. Secondly, I am teaching you, right, normal profit. Normal profit. Normal profit means, in economics, normal profit means actually there is no profit. Profit is zero. Zero profit එකට තමයි අපිට අපි ප්‍රාමාණික ලාභයක් කියලා කියනවා. එහෙනම් අපි දැන් perfect competition එක යනවා. firm එක අපිට quickly we can draw this. Here P, here T, here AR, here M. අපි දැන් මෙතෙන්ට පුතේ නම් අදිනවා AC curve මේ විදිහට touch වෙලා. මොකද AC and AR සමානයි. එතකොට profit එකක් TRTC සමානයි. MC is drawing like this with the minimum point. MC එක කොහොමදක් නියමයි. Here is the equilibrium. මෙතනත් එතකොට MR should be equal to MC and the here is the equilibrium content. Now TR minus TC. TR means this AR, right? P into AR, this 0 PEQ, that is the total revenue area. Total cost. Since the average cost curve lies on this average revenue curve, right? Both AC and right AR similar. එතකොට මේ area එකෙන්ම තමයි total cost එකක් අපි දෙන්නේ. 0 PEQ. Since the total revenue is equal to the total cost, the firm earns a normal profit. So I have described you profit estimation up to abnormal profit and the normal profit. So I hope to explain you with numerical examples what is required for your examination, right? In a forthcoming lecture. So I believe that you have got a proper understanding on the behavior of the production, behavior of the cost and profit estimation of the perfectly competitive firm. Right. So thanks a lot for joining with me, and I give my special thanks to Nana Power. They have done a great service to the students, right, in all subjects to make this event a successful one. And I wish them to have many more helps or favors to the students, right, in the nation. Thanks a lot for joining with me. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. අද අපිත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා අපේ දුවා දරුවන් වෙනුවෙන් ලස්සන හොඳ දේශනයක් කරාට ඒ වගේම මේ වෙලාවේ සර්ට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනක් කරා අපි මේ වෙලාවේ ප්‍රභාත් සර්වත් ආදරයෙන් මතක් කරනවා. ඒ වගේම කියන්න ඕනේ අද දේශනේ Zoom ඔස්සේ හරි live හරි බලන්න බැරි වෙච්ච අය ඉන්නවා නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට පුළුවන් නනපවර YouTube channel එකේ පසුවටත් මේ දේශනේ නරඹන්න. ඒ වගේම මතක් කරලා අපේ channel එක subscribe කරන්න, bell icon එක click කරොත් ඉදිරි දේශන බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඉදිරි දේශන සඳහා සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න අපේ Telegram group එකට join වෙන්න පුළුවන්. තවමත් සම්බන්ධ වෙලා නැත්නම් YouTube channel එකේ link එක තියෙනවා. click කරලා Telegram group එකට join වෙන්න. එහෙනම් අද සම්බන්ධ වූ අපේ සර්ට අපේ හදපිරි ස්තුති පුද කරනවා. එහෙනම් අපි තවත් දේශනාවකින් නැවත හමුවෙමු. බොහොමත්ම ස්තුතියි.
වාණිජ විද්‍යා කලා ගණිත තාක්ෂණ වේදය විෂය ධාරාවන් වල සියලුම විෂයන් සඳහා දැන් නැනපවුර YouTube channel ඔස්සේ නැරඹිය හැක.